concern. I am not the
Welcome
one.
to the Strictly Business Podcast.
I am not a hero, and I am not a hero, and I am not your one.
Hey guys, before you watch this amazing video, please do me one favor and subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the doorbell, and give it a thumbs up. That will mean the world to me. Thank you.
In 2005, doing SEO. We've got an agency that we run in Surrey Hills. Got like 12 staff in here. We've also got media properties that we own too. So just a couple of websites, like affiliate sites, stuff like that we're building out. Probably say we're like 80% clients, 20% of our own sites. So like they say, got to have skin in the game. You've got to be an SEO, testing things on your own properties. And like that's another thing we've been doing recently. Everyone in the office has to have their own website as well. Even if you're a junior, if you're a senior, whatever, we're all building our own sites out. So yeah, it's fun. That's it.
Nice to meet everybody. And I have a similar background to James, not as long in the game. I kicked off my career in 2007. So yeah, I've been in it for a while, but mainly been dealing with SEO in the UK and the US markets, and not so much in Australia. And like James said, I've been working a lot with clients, like in different like countries, and also Australia. I have worked with, like medium-sized teams, like bigger teams, different types of business portfolios, like small to medium-sized businesses, all the way up to like enterprise and brand. And like James said, it's all about skin in the game. Like doesn't matter, doesn't matter what level SEO you are. End of the day, you need to learn how to like run and develop a business. And as I was saying to a client this morning, like as an SEO person, you're essentially building a business through the Google platform. So like that's what I just aim to do.
Awesome. So what projects and what's the latest things you guys have been working on specifically that you would like to share? James, James and I discussed about recently, David, about the whole regulation of SEO in Australia, and that was a bit of a hot topic. And the reason that I really like the idea of having you specifically in this discussion is that European background in SEO, and so what you can actually share, because in some ways Australia is a little bit behind Europe in some of the various applications of SEO. So what sort of some of the things you've been working on, or what some of the things that you've been trialing out that's been winning for the clients? And I'll put you on the spot.
Oh,
there was no agenda.
That's
so just see how quickly you can think on your head, mate.
That's fine. Well, like in a nutshell, it's like content, like developing the right strategy from the outset. I can't stress that enough. And like trying to figure out the first mover advantage. Just like playing the catch-up game. It's like for a lot of businesses and for a lot of websites and people, it's just too hard a slog. Like to be honest, there are people who can do it, but like I'm working on another client at the moment, and they're going into the like pain relief niche, and like that's just been saturated for probably close to decades now, and they're expecting to see results in 3 months, which I mean, like all of us, we love that, but it's a different thing. So trying to figure out like what are those like first mover advantages, like low hanging fruit that people can like really seize and then try to gain traction. And like I try to approach things more like a startup, like if that's the stage they're in, like if they're in the startup to growth stage. So what do they need to do to penetrate the market? As a startup, they can't be the big gorilla, if if they're just like a like small baby. So just to come back to actually what I've seen working, like content, like just like it's the backbone for everything. And then having the right type of keyword strategy, but that's knowing who the audience is and going for the right intent. And then like page speed and just like good HTML structure. As simple as it is, people just don't do it.
Well, I was actually breaking this down before I go to you, James.
Overcomplicates.
Yeah, I was actually having this sort of, it was mini debate with a client, because I think what I was explaining is how the algorithm is eventually evolving. What we've seen with Rank Brain, what we're going to see with advancements in AI and machine learning. So when I was discussing that, he's like, "Oh, so what you're telling me is that everything we're working on now is going to be redundant?" I said, "We are working on content right now. Content is going to be the variable in which how the algorithm is catching up to, or is going to adapt and change based upon the metrics that are assigned to find quality content. Creating great content will never stop. Content is the blood of the internet, right? So it's what I explained to is a matter of using old school metrics to assign values to determine what is quality content based upon searcher intent versus new ideas, a new involvement in how Google and other search engines are going to assess quality content. That's going to change. That's going to evolve. Fundamentally, content is the lifeblood of SEO.
Yeah. And like there is something else that like we've been testing. We don't have it like absolutely verified yet. But Google's been prioritizing a lot of its own properties. I mean, this is no secret. So we've been like testing different traffic generation tactics, not just through Google, but to try to trigger like brand searches. So for example, we might like release a video on TikTok and then try to drive natural searches from TikTok to Google back to the website brand, just to see if the AI might try to do something. So like I don't have something tangible to say. It's just something that like, we're testing at the moment, and we're testing it with different different media channels, and also just hedging the risk with any traffic drops. Because Google's always like changing something. Like they tweak something over the weekend in their product reviews niche, and I did see some things happen there. So pretty much hedging your bets.
James can talk more to that because he's got a few affiliate sites. But James, you want to talk about that? What sort of things you've been working on since our last chat?
So I mean, to answer the earlier question, like a lot of companies that come to us, they might have already used 2 or 3 other SEO agencies. So sometimes it's just about educating the client the right or wrong way to do things. Just doing like a technical audit, keyword research up front, just getting all the basic stuff set up, ensuring that the site has the correct structure, correct like content set up, etc., etc. Just getting it set up from the start. I mean, in terms of the affiliate sites, we've got a product review site that did get a little bit of a negative hit from recent Google product review update. That said, though, we've also got niche specific sites that are very focused on just one niche, and the content is quite good, and it's very focused on the singular niche. So that's doing very well at the moment. Those type of sites, I think the sites that target everything, affiliate sites that are like broad spectrum targeting sites that target a wide range of different keywords and verticals. I think I've seen a few of those sites lose visibility recently. Some of the content is pretty average though. I think you really have to be satisfying search intent and really answering the query to the full extent, going through and looking at all the questions that people are asking on a certain query and including those into your copy, making use of tools like ClearScope, Surfer SEO, et cetera. I mean, don't just use them as a basis point, but also just going to Google and seeing who is already ranking and what have they done with their content. How have they structured it? How have they written it out. Like, what type of images are they using? Is it unique images, or are they just stock shitty images? You know,
I find one of the bigger challenges. One of the bigger challenges. Sorry to cut you off there, James. One of the bigger. I don't know. I want to get your boys' insight on this. One of the bigger challenges is trying to get some of our clients to challenge the status quo in the sort of content that is clearly winning. That we can other tools to sort of determine what content is working for a specific niche, and then telling clients that this is an example that we could do. We can create it better by doing X, Y, Z. How do you guys find? How do you guys sort of articulate and express to get the clients to build content that is clearly working? Obviously, you're going to create it differently, maybe improve on a few things. If they've never done that type of content before, like sort of like if you're in a fashion niche, there's a lot of different ways to build quote unquote. I mean, I don't know what you guys define as great content. For me, it's content that engages, builds links naturally, gets comments, gets good average time on site, helps people to browse other pages from then on. And I have generally a low exit rate. How do you guys sort of get your clients, or if you're sort of struggling, that's cool too, to challenge the status quo and the different types of content that they should experiment with and trying with?
I've got a couple angles on this. So, like, there's a couple different types of clients I'm experiencing. There's some who just bring fresh ideas to the table, and they just want to try anything and everything. They know that they're onto something when it comes to like leveraging content, because they've seen how that's working. They just don't know how to do it, and they need to partner with someone to do it. So, like, those people are generally easier to work with because they're already on board. They just want to know, like, what's the roadmap, and then they know that it's going to work in some way, shape, or form in the future. But like the other ones where it's like pretty much like, what am I paying for, and how come I'm not seeing more money in my bank account just yet? Yes, it's challenging, but the first thing I normally try to do is to try to demonstrate wins. So if I can demonstrate some kind of short-term win, which is either visibility or ideally like traffic increases, or even impressions. So I actually use impressions in the Google Search Console to show that like there's something happening. So then they can just see some kind of they can just see some kind of like win or some kind of momentum, and not think that their money's going into a hole. And clients will always say, like, we want to see like the money in the bank account, like we want to see sales, we want to see leads. But when you dig deep enough, they really want to see some kind of win, and they want to just have the confidence that they've not made a mistake by hiring whoever they've hired.
And to get the client to challenge that status quo, to get them to create content that maybe they had never done before. I remember we wanted to introduce quizzes. We wanted to introduce various different types of formats of content that they're not used to, a different tone than perhaps.
Yeah. So like the types of content I focus on for clients, like I make sure it's validated in the market by some data. So I normally go to them and I say, like, if you want to win, like this is the roadmap, and this is what's working, and all you need to do is just replicate this, and then you'll get to your end result. And like, this is what's currently being shared on the web. This is what's currently generating like traffic leads. This is what's currently making this other company X amount of like advertising dollars or revenue.
Back it up with data.
But that's only for that type of tactic. So like, I've not experimented with like quizzes, or like a little bit with like lead magnets, but not that extensively. But then that's a bit of a more challenging thing. So it comes back down to the wins. Like, what's the wins that you can demonstrate just to get their confidence up, and then they can be a bit bolder. That's what I find.
James?
Yeah, I mean, really depends on the client. Like, certain clients are at a different position in the market than other clients. Like, some of the clients we work with, they might already be getting millions of organic clicks each month. So their goal might just be to increase traffic 10% or increase conversions, like just speed up the site. Like, every client's got different goals. If you starting with a brand new website, then it might be the fact that it's going to take 6 months to actually see any type of results. You're going to be in Google Sandbox, and like David said, like you might have to report impressions to the site and other metrics to kind of get the client excited early on and show them some like initial traction in the market. Because yeah, at the end of the day, most clients, like, I think you got to set the expectation early on.
Mm-hmm.
You got to say to them, like, this is going to take time. You know, a lot of SEO agencies just are out there to swindle clients, take their money, and they're not going to tell them the honest truth. Like, when they're launching a brand new website, if we get calls all the time, like, people are like, yeah, I'm a startup, like, I'm launching a new website. We're just honest with people, say, mate, like, yeah, it's going to take 6 to 8 months to actually see some results early on. You might be better doing some PPC upfront and then coming and talking to us in 6 months. But other SEOs will just sell them whatever. They say, yeah, we can get you ranking for car insurance, no worries. It's just like, it's never going to happen. Like, in certain markets, it's just too competitive because people have already been doing SEO for 10, 20 years plus. You know, there's already these established authoritative properties. It can be hard for certain businesses to come in, but there's always a niche in the market and there's always opportunity out there for people to target long tail and mid tail and things like that. But yeah, like, in terms of results, like, what do most clients care about that we work with? I mean, of course, it's like, it's organic traffic and it's sales from organic. It's that they're like the two main metrics. And then you've got other rudimentary metrics and some important metrics like keyword rankings. But sometimes even keyword rankings is a hard one now because you've got localization of queries and things like that. When someone searches for something in Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne, they're probably going to be getting served different results. A lot of people don't even factor that in as well. So it's definitely getting SEO is definitely getting more complex, and it's definitely getting harder. And I think the clients need to invest a decent amount in competitive verticals, because if you don't have a decent budget and you're in a competitive vertical, you're probably wasting your time.
And actually, at the moment, one of the areas I'm focusing on is intense advanced sort of that core web vitals and learning, playing around. Because I have a dev background, I am interested in sort of understanding various ways to reduce, you know, like LCP and FCP and all those sort of first, which we don't want to get into just because it's not really an SEO targeted discussion at the moment. But just those real technical aspects of SEO, and as James was saying, like, SEO is like, it's a very different very different beast to tackle than it was in 2008. And I think people sort of understand that, like, on a surface level. But when I think educating clients on what that actually means on a detailed level, and setting that expectation. I think, David, you and I had this conversation multiple times in the past, that setting that expectation early on is like key and fundamental. I don't even think I'll take on clients in startup niche, like that are startups in competitive. I don't even think I'll do that anymore. I mean, not without a serious, massive amounts of discussion and education first before entering the SEO project, because, you know, expectations is one thing, but helping them understand exactly, looking at the competitors, understanding where they are. I normally just say, like, it's like a big giant Bathurst race, and they're already on the 100th lap, and you just want to enter the lap at lap 0. And you catch up to them. And guess what? They're not going to slow down. They're not looking behind, right? And so what strategies have we got? What budget do you have? What engine do you have to sort of propel and get you forward? So I'm looking at core web vitals, and that alone is probably a specialist. I think, James, as well, you and I were talking about how, like, SEO is going to probably split. It's getting that complex into multiple different areas of specialists. But I'll shut up and let you guys talk.
Well, you mentioned something which it is to do with the startups, but it does apply to any business, and that's their unique value proposition, or what's their unique selling point. And, like, there's a lot of just businesses in general that I've worked with, and I've made my own mistakes with, like, my own personal ventures as well, where, like, the USP, like, that is just missed. Like, without having that, like, there's no way you're going to be able to create that leverage that you need. So where I've found I've had, like, really troublesome clients is, like, they might know that they want, like, SEO as a channel or one of their channels. They know what they desire, but they don't they haven't worked out their unique value proposition for their products or service or whatever it is they're offering,
And
to
they
their
have to
market.
be. And
Yeah.
like, as sorry to cut you off, but as even
Yeah.
Jay said about, telling, being honest up front, like for me, if I don't, like, they have to be a really good entrepreneur. They have to really be good at running a business. I think, I don't, I don't know what you guys think about that, but for me, I always preach like, it's not our job to turn lead into gold, number one. And number two, if you suck at running a business, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you don't have a good marketing team behind the scenes, a good leadership executive team, because then I think that it's got a big part of SEO failing too when they can't implement and scale. I had a client leave because they couldn't scale up. Like the leads were coming
Mm-hmm.
through, they couldn't scale up, they couldn't manage it, and they didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
processes in place to scale, and they quit on success. That pissed me off. But I learned a valuable
Yep.
lesson. You've got to work with people that I believe that can actually run a business really, really well and understand and scale.
Yeah, and there's a different aspects of the business, and to what James was saying before, there's like clients that are at different stages. They might be a startup, they might be mature, like, and then just looking to have that extra 10% growth, or they might be looking to enter another market and then piggyback off things, whatever it might be. But yeah, they need to at least have some kind of like system or structure in place that will allow them to either scale or to be able to penetrate a market. And the only way you're going to penetrate a market is you need to offer something of value in exchange for for what the people that you're selling to, the audience, will give you.
Yeah.
Whether that's like information or leads or money, whatever it might be. But yeah, a lot of people they tend to not even get that right, and I found that a lot of people try to figure it out along the way, and it's kind of too late because if you're in a market where people already have that figured out, like you're already going to be lingering in second place, unless you kind of get lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll pass it on to James now, but like one of the areas, I had a client that came over, has had a lot of SEOs in the past, and I'm switching that mindset from, I think even James mentioned about keyword as a rudimentary KPI. This guy we've been so obsessed with about 4 keywords, and when we actually delve into it, he's all obsessed with keywords. When we actually delve into it, they're not that big of impact on the business as the content as a whole. And I know what you guys thoughts are, James. Like for me, is big picture SEO. So it's like understanding where can we build a piece of content at scale. So the previous SEO, they built these landing pages that are doorway pages, location pages, which I know a lot of people do, but it's done really, really poorly. We're gonna it's stuck in two minds whether we just scrap that strategy and then or we sort of evolve it. And so I said, let's evolve it. So every time you go to one of these suburbs, let's actually record a video, put it up on YouTube, and then actually add recent jobs that we've done. So if we're targeting, let's say, Gold Coast, for example, we get all the suburbs that are around Gold Coast. Every time we go to one of these suburb pages, we actually include content that we've taken from the job with like a little mini article about, how we saved Mary's house from falling apart, from termites or whatever. And then actually building upon that URL structure. So it looks like at one time it was just a shitty little doorway page, and now we've just evolved it to actually include recent jobs and looking for those content asset opportunities. Anyway, that's just something that I'm finding is doing really well. Looking for those opportunities with clients, those small, low-hanging fruit is like finding a way for them to produce content. Every job that they do is a piece of content. So yeah, that's just changing that mindset and philosophy. That's how I see it. James, do you have anything to add, mate, before we put you to sleep?
In terms of content assets for our clients and things like that, yeah, 100%, that's all working. And I guess to your point earlier, if a client has deployed a huge number of landing pages in the past, depends on the level of how quality are those pages. Are the pages even indexed? Are the pages ranking? See a lot of people that deploy low quality landers with duplicate content and stuff like that. Sometimes they don't even get indexed. So that's the first thing to check. Like, are they indexed? Are they ranking? can you make those pages better, make them more conversion friendly, and to your other point about like 4 or 5 keywords converting, like it's good if the client has a lot of AdWords data, Google Ads data, and they already know some of the keywords that are converting, and then you can kind of do more keyword research and find other keywords that are converting, things like that. Because you gotta really do your deep keyword research at the start of any project to really build out your content strategy. You've got to be data driven with your content as well. Get calls from people all the time where they've utilized a content agency, or someone's done their content, their friend's daughter's kid or whatever has come up with their SEO and content strategy, and they've just come together and put up like 100 blogs that are just totally worthless, and they're not data driven, they're not based off any research, they're not kind of drive any sales or traffic to the site. I've seen that so many times. It's crazy.
We look at with the clients feel like because they're out on the front line. We can look at the data all day long. We do. We use that obviously as a big part of the strategy, but actually being on the front line and getting that client feedback, frequently asked questions, and like using them as a part of our content strategy have helped to drive traffic that we couldn't pick up because the search volume might be a little bit low, but they're highly converting. They're highly converting. You might get like 10 searches a month, very low competition. 90% of those 10 searches a month convert. And there's like, if an average job is like $3,000, then like that's an extra $27,000 a month with all normal work.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is, like, we're in competitive niches like cryptocurrency and finance, and you've got to go after that type of stuff. If it's a medium-sized site, like lower-sized site, if you're not a super authoritative property, you got to go after the low-hanging fruits and lower competition queries. It's similar in a lot of competitive niches. You really have to go after those lower search volume queries. But the thing is, like, a lot of these keyword tools might say 10 searches a month, 20 searches a month, but when you actually get a landing page up for that, you can get like 10 a day in some cases, and I've seen that. And
also the amount of conversion.
The data is not always accurate.
No, I mean, we've got a page that generates 20 inquiries a month and only getting 160 landing page visits organically, versus another page that get 4,000 and they don't generate even half that.
100%, 100%.
So David, do you have something to add?
I agree with like everything that you said. Just one thing I want to go back on, which is to do with getting clients to create content. So something I've been pushing more for probably in the last year is to focus on documenting content rather than creating content from scratch. So if they're out in the field, they take a video. Like if they've got some spare time, they just record an audio, and then that can be turned into a transcript of some kind. And then they just start to build up all these like content assets, like just based on their like actual like knowledge or expertise. And then it can be repurposed again in the future. So that's something that we've been like pushing a lot more of as well. And it's also allowed us to find new niche opportunities as well, because we don't know their industry as well as them. So sometimes we find some hidden gems, and that kind of leads into what you were saying with like those like niche keywords and the low hanging fruit, and then like we create some content for like a page, and then the data might say there's like less than 10 searches a month, and the next thing it becomes one of your most popular like pages on the site.
I mean, it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen. It happens a lot less than I would love it, than we wish it would. But it's just that every now and then there are those hidden gems, like you mentioned. Boys, we'll probably want to finish up soon. Did you guys want to have some final thoughts about some tools? I know James uses more SEO tools than Bunnings, right? Like the guy every time I talk to him, he tells me about a new tool. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta check that out.
Mate, you should see Dejan Mladenovski. He's every time I see that guy these days, he's got a new tool he's pulling out of his tool belt, mate. Actually, SEO tool belt. He's pulling all sorts of tools out, like stuff like there's so many new tools always coming onto the market. You know?
Yeah, and I think we're going to get him on for that to talk about some new tools, and Dion will be a good character to have. Maybe some final thoughts, if you want. I can probably start first. I was just going to like sort of end the conversation with like, you know, where you can find you guys. Maybe just give some, if anyone, any business, small to medium to large, whatever you want to focus on, give them like a quick tool that they can use and do some like research to give them small wins. I'll start. Obviously, guys, you can find me at amigadigital.com.au. Some of the best easy strategies that I love to use actually do like the easiest. I like Enter the Public for content and content tools, ideas. It gives you the who, what, where, and how, and it gives you like a sort of breakdown mind map. And so you just put in your keywords. You know, if you're putting engagement rings, it'll kind of give you a bit of a mind map. You can change the data set to Australia. It does use Google's data, but it's easy to, because no business out there should ever have a reason not to build content. The whole game is content, and if you don't have an SEO, probably get one. But if you can't afford an SEO, then at the very least you can figure out, use some easy to understand tools and things like that to find out what people are searching for. If you go to Google and you type in, let's say you type in, you know, engage it rings. We've done a lot of giveaway lines. You can even see down the bottom, you've got the searches related to, which people also ask, which you've got to be a little bit careful about that, because sometimes it does pull in US, but it can give you some ideas. And if you click the bottom listing and then click it up like a toggle show and hide it, even more suggestions will pop up. And a big one down the bottom, like related searches, which I find is a lot more local specific. And you'll get keywords like, you know, engagement rings for men, engagement rings online. They give you some ideas as some popular keywords and things like that. And it gives you some good ideas how to write content. And my biggest and best suggestion is, what does your customer market expect? What do they want? You focus on that, the Google's algorithm is catching up to you. Me out. David, final thoughts, some tools, some easy wins.
So again, my name is David James. You can find me on my website, businessgrowthdigitalmarketing.com, or email me at david@businessgrowthdigitalmarketing.com. Some quick wins and tools. I personally like to leverage as much raw data as possible. If people can look at their like log files and also just really understand their audience, like what's their audience, what do they want, you know, and can they give it to them, and what are the problems they're trying to solve, and then from there, like try to figure out what will work for that market. In terms of tools and discovery, my go-to one is Ahrefs. I just find it easier to use, and rather than trying to recreate the wheel, just at least look at what the competitors are doing or what people are doing already in the market. Like see what's working for them, you know, in terms of the content, in terms of, well, links, but more so exposure and their PR and their promotional strategy. That's allowing them to get links, and their keyword strategy. At least have that as a starting point, and then make sure it matches what the intentions are of the business. And to what you said, Andrew, like just focus on the market first, give the market what it wants, because end of the day, everything else will eventually catch up.
And David, and credit to you quickly, like the whole, you and I were talking about the whole, you brought light to you put a little idea in my brain that exploded for years. 5 years ago, you mentioned about how using PR for links and things like that. And that was like, oh my God, I mean, that might have seemed common sense. It wasn't, it was massive insight. Now that's like a big part of sort of utilizing, you know, different PR contacts to build links. And involving that concept, but that was great. And I always think about you. And every time I do that, every time I do anything to do with PR, link building, I always think about you, mate. So
thank you.
Definitely go and follow David on his website and follow him on his channels and like and subscribe. James, final thoughts, my man. Thanks for joining me too, David. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
James, any final?
If you want to find me online, just go to prosperitymedia.com.au. Or if you want to hit me up on Twitter, connections8 on Twitter. So hoping that Andrew drives in thousands of visitors to this recording today, so we get a few new followers there. But yeah, in terms of tools that are working at the moment, I really love like Surfer SEO, ClearScope, InLinks is another one. They're all like content optimization tools. They're really good for if you've got content staff working at your agency or in-house. They're really good tools to help staff structure content and bring in additional ideas when they're producing a large volume of content. All those tools are really good. They're good for, especially Surfer SEO is good for like SERP analysis too. There's some really good features there. But back to David's point, like OG tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush, like they're like the cornerstone of the SEO tool belt. So you've got to have those in your tool belt for any SEO. Like, I mean, we've been using SEMrush a bit for keyword analysis and for identifying PBNs and stuff like that. They've picked up their game a lot, SEMrush. So, but yeah, Ahrefs still the market leader for the tools. Tim Sulio and the team, Tim Sulo, sorry, I think it is, and the team has done a great job. So definitely, you've got to make use of that. And just back to another point David raised earlier about going around and getting your clients to take audio and stuff like that, looking for quick wins like that. Just thought of something today. I was looking at a prospect's website and they're like, give me some quick wins. And then I said, you've got 100 podcasts that you've done and you haven't transcribed one of them. Every podcast, they only had 3 lines of text. I said, you want a quick win? Go onto a bloody transcription service and get an editor and then you've got 100 pages of content ready to go. And she's like, oh, well, like that's the thing, like things like that. Like so many people, like there's a lot of quick wins that are just sitting right in front of people, you know, like, and you got to take action and do it. That's the thing about SEO. Like you just got to take action and implement and roll it out and test. You got to constantly be testing stuff too. If you want to succeed, you got to be testing heavily. Testing different things, doing redirect tests, doing title tag change tests, doing all sorts of tests. Like the best SEOs are testing stuff every day. The best SEOs that I've met, you know, like they're always testing different stuff and they're always up to all sorts of shenanigans. So yeah, that's my final 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I really appreciate your time. Guys, if you've got any questions, let us know in the comment section below.
I am not the one, and I am not your Neo. I am not a hero, and I am not a hero, and I am not your